Greetings. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. I'm Lexi Eve, and welcome back to another talk on Magick in theory and practice. Today I'm going over Chapter 6, the formula of the Neophyte. So this chapter opens with a note to the reader, referring them to the Temple of Solomon the King from the Equinox, Volume 1, Number 2. There you will find the Golden Dawn Neophyte ceremony, just as in Rigardi's GD book, but with a few extra illustrations and notes by Crowley that are unique. You, the listener, should familiarize yourself with this ceremony and its symbolism, as the Limerick initiation is drawn from this. I myself refer you also to Pyramidos by David Magick. There, the late author does an immaculate job of breaking down all the nuance of Liber 671 Pyramidos. In light of the Golden Dawn and the Lima, it's truly a masterpiece. And Liber Pyramidos is a self-initiation to the grade of Neophyte, first degree equals 10 square of AA, written by Aleister Crowley, and used by him and many others throughout their magical careers. So now let's quote from the chapter. Quote, "This formula has for its first matter the ordinary man, entirely ignorant of everything and incapable of anything. He is therefore represented as blindfolded and bound. His only aid is his aspiration, represented by the officer, who is to lead him into the temple. Before entering, he must be purified and consecrated. Once within the temple, he is required to bind himself by an oath. His aspiration is now formulated as will." End quote. This opening is used in numerous initiatory orders, from the Golden Dawn to OTO to AA. Even the first degree of Freemasonry begins in this manner. As the above quote says, the candidate is bound and guided into the temple by an officer, symbolizing the ignorance of the teaching of the order and the mysteries in general. This is not always true, as some candidates may have studied for years or decades prior to joining an order which uses this method, but still, joining an order does not entitle one to leadership. In fact, you are bound to service and study, learning how to conduct yourself based on the example of your peers and leaders. Even if one has been studying for years and practicing as well, prior to their first initiation, no one knows everything, nor can they know God. So this is a symbolization of the limits of the human mind to which the spirit of man is bound until death. By following through with initiations, study, and practice, one can overcome this by doing their will. The officer is, in a sense, symbolic of the HGA, as they are guiding the candidate and the candidate cannot even see them, merely fear the result of their guiding hand. Note this from the ceremony. Quote, "Hegemon sees that the candidate is properly robed and hoodwinked, and that the rope goes 3 times round his waist. He then leads the candidate to the door." End quote. The rope around the waist 3 times is at the level of the base of the spine. It is symbolic of the Kundalini, which is dormant and curled up thrice in the base of the spine. Then by following the officer, the candidate, by choosing to go forward and taking their oath, does make their first act of will in the order by following through. There really is a beautiful symbolism in the ordeal. Also in the GD Neophyte ceremony, after the candidate is brought into the temple, they are purified and consecrated 4 times, 4 being the number of the elements, and are guided in a circumambulation of the temple while these take place. 2 circles the first time and 2 circles again the second, all diocel. 4 circles are also symbolic of the 4 elements. 2 is the dyad, the separation of spirit and matter. Going diocel in a circumambulation follows the way of the sun, and doing so invokes energy. Note that circumambulating Widdershin, counterclockwise, banishes energy. Note also that in some orders you may do 6 or 9 circumambulations, symbolic of the sun or the moon. 6 for the sun, 9 for the moon, but no more on that for secrecy's sake. Central to the Golden Dawn Neophyte ceremony was the white triangle and red cross, symbolizing the light of the supernals, and the cross, that of Tifereth, red for the blood of their sacrificial crucifixion upon the cross. These are arranged on a central altar, but the cross is above the white triangle, further symbolizing the obligation of manifesting the light of the highest in the outer order, the world of the elements. In Liber Pyramidos, there is a triangle on the floor in the west being Malkuth on the Tree of Life, and inside the triangle, the neophyte cuts a cross upon their breast. Crowley gives little else about this formula. telling the student to refer to the equinox and Z2 documents of the GD. I myself will offer a little more. In the Golden Dawn, the Neophyte grade was 0 equals 0. 0 degrees equals 0 square, placing the candidate in the Olam Qlifoth, the world of shells, and first degree equals 10 square was the Zealiter grade. Crowley named the 0 equals 0 the probationer grade of AA, and first degree equals 10 square, that of the Neophyte in Malkuth. I've heard different theories from different lineages. The Gunther lineage says that as a probationer you are in the Olam Qlifoth. Others say that you are always in Malkuth and probation has nothing at all to do with the world of shells. I tend to agree with the latter. In any order, when one receives a grade, they are entitled to grade signs, sometimes also grips and passwords. Speaking strictly of AA, the probationer should have become thoroughly familiar with the signs of the Enterer and Silence, which I have made a video about, linked below in the description. The Neophyte uses the sign of set fighting, which I intend to make a video about soon. In Liber Pyramidos, the Neophyte receives a password of sorts. It is Mem Vav Aleph Vav Mem, Mu'aum, whose value is 93, which is not a word in Hebrew, but a play on Aum, A-U-M-G-N, MGN equal 93. Altogether, it equals 100, and it's very important you should take a look at the Gematria. Now, completely off the AA topic and the Golden Dawn topic, what I went through under the guidance of my teacher followed a different ideology altogether, and so I just want to talk about that a little bit. So in the 1980s, through a series of dreams, my teacher received a series of rituals from his HGA that upon inspection followed a Golden Dawn style of initiation, leading from 0 equals 0 to 5 equals 6. Our first ceremony wasn't in Malkuth, nor the world of the shells. His angel, Kai Hui, placed it on the path of Tau. Tau is Saturn and Earth. It corresponds with A221, the universe. In the Thoth deck, Shekinah, or Eve of sorts, is dancing with a coiled serpent protruding from the eye of Shiva. She bears a scythe, the timeless symbol of death. So after a preliminary lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram and hexagram, and the supreme invoking ritual of the pentagram, our ritual used 5 sets of elemental invoking pentagrams, beginning with earth, then air, water, fire, and spirit. 4 pentagrams are drawn in each quarter for each element, with a physical representation of that element, such as a rock for earth or a cup of water for water. So like I said, 4 of each pentagram, 1 for each quarter, totaling 25 pentagrams. But for spirit, the magician disrobes, offering up their outer robe of concealment and spirit to the HGA. Each pentagram is charged by intoning a part of the spirit, Nefesh for the earth pentagrams, Ruach for air, Neshama for water, Chaya for fire, and Yekaida for spirit. Rather than, let's say you're doing the lesser banishing ritual in the east, you intone Yod He Vav He. So for earth, you would intone in the east, south, west, and north. For the earth pentagrams, Nefesh, so on. In essence, this version begins by recognizing death as the condition of life, activating the elemental body and all parts of the soul. There is also a connection of the path of Tau and the graveyard, and so there's an aspect of being reborn into the order in our formula. So there's not much more I can say without going line by line through Pyramidos or the Golden Dawn Neophyte ceremony. So this is a short one and I end here. Love is the law, love under will. I'll see you all in the next one.